Let's jump into Carolina's season. I know you guys have been on the edge of your seat. When I say you guys, I meant the Chicken and Taylor, and hopefully
the edge, literally teetering on the edge of the seat right now.
All right, so we're going to go over their season. We're going to go over their schedule. Chicken's going to talk about their depth, and then we're going to break the games down. So they open up at a neutral site, I think in Atlanta, with Virginia Tech, the Fighting Inner Sandmans. Then they play South Carolina State, another one of those states. Vanderbilt at home, Mizzou in the other Columbia, Kentucky at LSU. Ooh. Oklahoma.
No, go back to that. Don't oof. You can't oof LSU. LSU. That ain't. You can't oof on that one, dude. We were like seconds away from beating them. A few calls away from really giving them the lick. They had the refs on their side. It ain't no oof. That's going to be a breeze.
Look, I mean, we've talked about that game. Me and the Chicken talked about the game many times on the show and even offline. In my opinion, I think Carolina should have won that game if LaNorris Sellers wouldn't have went down. But Taylor, I don't know if you've ever been to Baton Rouge. And if let's just say this is week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at best. Week 6, maybe week 7. Don't know if y'all had a bye in there.
Yeah, they got a bye between Kentucky and LSU.
Okay, so let's just say week 7. Let's say LSU and Carolina are undefeated. And look, I want to get through this schedule and we'll talk about depth, and we'll get more into these games real quick. But I felt like I should say this just to kind of back up my oof. If y'all are both undefeated at that time, that's not a 3:30 kick. That's not a noon kick. That's a 7:30 kick. And 7:30 in Baton Rouge is not an easy place to play. That's going to be a tough environment for Carolina. I believe that. So that is why I say oof. That's going to be hard. Then you face Oklahoma, then at home. Then you play Alabama at home. Then you got to go to Ole Miss, go to A&M. You bring it back home to Coastal, and you finish out in Colatown with Clemson. So I think it's a great schedule, and I think Carolina has an opportunity to really showcase who they could be this year, for sure, with this schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. When I look at this schedule and I go through it line by line, I'm going to tell you right now, Virginia Tech, that's a win. South Carolina State, that's a win. Bert and Ernie show, that's a win. Missouri is always one of those shows or games where it kind of comes down to the wire, but I think that we've passed them now. I don't think it's going to be as close this next season, and I think we take out the evil one on his home turf. Kentucky, come on. But the best thing going on in Kentucky right now is the Bourbon Tour. We're going to go into LSU at 5-0. LSU, Death Valley, Baton Rouge is a very tough environment in the night. In the nighttime is the right time for the Cajun. However, I think that one is going to be a close game, but I think one that if LaNorris can stay healthy, the Gamecocks can and will pull out. Oklahoma is my trip game for us. Not saying we're going to lose that, but I think that if you come out of that environment in Baton Rouge with the win, you're 6-0 going up against Oklahoma. Yes, it's at home. Remember what we did to Oklahoma. We beat them like they stole something from us last year. Like, hey, I know we've never met, but I'm going to embarrass you in front of your own home team. Right? That's what we did to the Sooners. They're looking for payback. We might be riding a ridiculous high after beating up on the Tigers in LSU the week before. That is a possible trip-up game for us. Alabama, we do pretty good against those guys when they come to Columbia. So I think that's going to be a win for us. Ole Miss, I think this is the year that we get over on your boyfriend Lane. A&M,
hey, easy.
Love is love.
How you doing?
Like, what am I going to do about it? We just got out of June.
Love is love. Say it again. Love is love. Hey, and I want to say something that you just said, Chicken, man. Really and truly, historically speaking, the Gamecocks don't do well carrying too much. What is the word I'm looking for? Like optimism. If people have too high expectations for South Carolina, they normally drop the ball. And historically speaking, I'm hoping things change and this is a different year. But if we're being realistic, we just talking realistic. I would hate to go into Alabama undefeated. Really.
Yeah, for sure. For
Excuse
sure.
me. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I hate to go into Oklahoma undefeated. Like you said, that's gonna be one of them ones. Them fellas are gonna be thinking about us for a while, and I think they're thinking about us more than we're thinking about them.
Agreed. And that's, again, the type of game that you're carrying so much momentum. Not only have going 5-0 into LSU, but if you can pull out that win, you're 6-0. You've got the bowl bid locked up. You're going bowl, and there's going to be a postseason. Everybody at this point in time, if you're 6-0 beating LSU, people, they're already talking Heisman for LaNorris. The Heisman hype is at an unfettered Richter scale atmosphere around LaNorris. People are going to be talking playoffs for these Gamecocks, and here come the Sooners into Columbia. That's an iffy environment. And just like you said, Taylor, Carolina doesn't always rise to the occasion like they should in those games. They tend to start getting into their own head, believe in the hype, and that's when mistakes can happen. One of the other things that I'm looking at this year, and we'll get into it a little bit more when we talk about the depth chart, is just some of the questions that are still out there, NCAA, that will help to solidify overall opinions about not only what can this Carolina team do, but what will this Carolina team do. A lot of people have made comments about, and I'll talk about Senior Chief here, about LaNorris Sellers. Well, is he that good? Is he this? Is he that? I believe yes. I've met the man up close and personal. I do believe that he is that guy. But what's behind him? Aaron Nolan, a 5-star who left Ohio State. Taylor talked about it just a few minutes ago. Left Ohio State to come here to be LaNorris Sellers' backup. So it's not the same situation if LaNorris goes down like we had against LSU last year, right, where we had a young man come in that just wasn't the guy we needed, right?
Well, hold on now. I will tell you this. As highly as I just spoke about Aaron Nolan, I'm not going to be the one to shoot myself in the foot. But did you watch him in the spring game? That's probably the only thing I'll have to ask about that situation right now.
Well, no, I didn't. I didn't see him in the spring game. I haven't gone to a Carolina spring game since I was in college at the lovely school.
Aaron
I'll
Nolan
have to
is
tip off to
having
you on that.
he's having some accuracy issues, I believe. I mean, he wasn't quite the quarterback that I anticipated him being the names and the stars behind him. But the person that's actually in competition right now competing for that QB2 spot is true freshman Cutter Woods, who had played against LaNorris Sellers because they were in the same division in the state title previously, but and around Jaden Sellers and stuff. But Cutter Woods is insane. So then when you talk about overall talent, yes, Aaron Nolan has that talent, but we have talent in Cutter Woods. We have talent in a few other of our backup quarterbacks that are coming in. And, I mean, it is a wide open room for QB2 right now. But we definitely have some guys back there.
Well, and I'll say this about South Carolina and quarterbacks. Beamer, year one. Enough said. You had Zeb. We had a grad assistant who probably hadn't tossed a football in 2 years, right? Other than what he was throwing to his dog in the backyard. And I don't know if that dog came from off the chain kennels or not. Zeb, if it didn't, you should correct that issue, right? Like that's who we had as our starting quarterback. He goes down. Then you got, I can't even remember who stepped into his shoes. He goes down. Jason Brown comes in. None of those guys are career Gamecocks. And it was a very piecemeal effort that year for Beamer and the quarterback room. Now that we've actually got a significant amount of talent, I have no issues with who's going to be under center for the Gamecocks.
No, and look, I'll say this to kind of back one of y'all kind of said this a minute ago. I know Taylor mentioned Carolina's season usually doesn't pan out that great when the expectations are so high. I think that's going to be different this year, and here's why. And I'll just say 2 words: Shane Beamer. Shane Beamer wasn't the coach back then when y'all had those high expectations that didn't pan out. Shane Beamer is now your coach, and I think that he's a really solid coach. He's really getting these players in it. And look, I mean, we'll get into predictions later on, but Carolina's season is going to be really, really good this year. Really good. Because what Chicken's about to talk about is their depth, and I think their depth is it at a Georgia or an Alabama or Ohio State level? No. But do I think Shane Beamer is building that? Yes. But more importantly, I think he's doing more with the talent that he's got than years past.
Absolutely. And let's go ahead and dive in to the depth chart here. We talked about the QB room. LaNorris Sellers sitting there on top right now. He threw for 2,500 yards last year, 18 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He did have some missed time in there because of that injury that he suffered against LSU in the first half, kept him out of the following game. But nothing but bright skies ahead for this young man. Aaron Nolan right there behind him with the 5-star. Cutter Woods, true freshman, 3-star quarterback coming in. And Carolina does well with 3-star. We typically in the recruiting world, you start hearing about 3-stars and nobody's all that impressed, right? But I'm going to tell you, South Carolina does some pretty good things with 3-star athletes. Going down in the running back room, I don't know if this has been hashed out yet with Rasul Faison, if the NCAA's cleared up whatever brain impediment that they've got going on right now to let this young man get out on the field and show us what he can do. But you've got Oscar Attaway the third behind him. Attaway's done some amazing things already at South Carolina. He knows how to put his head down and get the chains moving. Isaiah Augustave transferred in from Colorado. Looking forward to seeing what he can do. Jawan Howell. This kid is electric. You let that young man touch the ball and something special is going to happen. Matthew Fuller, Bradley Dunn, a very full room of talent at the running back position. No giant name that's jumping off the page necessarily, but we've talked about this before. You don't use it that way anymore in college football. You don't have a feature back and maybe bring in this guy here and there to spell. These guys are going to share the load, and I think South Carolina is going to move the chains on the ground this year.
Yeah, and not only
man, you know who's going to be the one I think that's going to be the difference for us to help move those chains though? Mike Shula. Man, we getting a year one of this new offensive coordinator. We're going to see what he's got. I mean, this could be I'm really very excited to see what he brings to the table game plan-wise for LaNorris Sellers this year. Man, I think he may be the difference maker for us.
Absolutely. And having had an entire offseason and getting ready for fall practice now, but having had an entire offseason to get in with Shula's program, to figure out the playbook and any tweaks that they wanted to make there is going to be a massive difference. So while you're going to see people geared up for South Carolina, right, because now you're not going to surprise anybody after the year they had last year. So nobody's going to be surprised by South Carolina from their defensive approach. However, you have a tested and proven offensive coordinator in Mike Shula. Look for some big things to happen with this offense.
You know, talking about the running backs at Carolina, and I don't want to take anything away from this young man because he was really good last year, Rocket Sanders. But I think Carolina has done enough to bounce back to not have a drop in production because they don't have him behind LaNorris Sellers this year. I think they've done a good enough job. I think their backfield is going to be solid.
And I think that comes from, again, the culture of college football has changed in that by and large, every major program is running a platoon at running back, okay? But when you look at South Carolina's running back production in recent history, right? You go back to the Spurrier era, you had Marcus Lattimore. After Marcus, you had Brandon Wiles. And then all of a sudden, we started having a more and more difficult time to replace a feature back. Who was going to be the next guy that stepped up and led the charge? And we started seeing that issue come out and play to where our ground attack on offense was barely mentionable. Mm-hmm. Barely mentionable. If it's 3rd and 3, you're probably going to figure out a way to throw it, right? Instead of handing it to the guy and letting him run through the hole. What Shane Beamer has brought back to South Carolina is a room of guys that have the size, have the speed, have the talent to lower their head and run you.
Yeah, I think the room is solid. I do. And if they'll get, I mean, it kind of stinks, man. I mean, I know y'all have a running back in the waiting to try to find out if he's going to get cleared or not. What drives me crazy is they're going to go ahead and so far it looks like they're going to let Pavia play. Pavia, Burt, Ernie, whatever. They're going to let him play, but they're not going to give this young man an answer. They've got to hurry up and figure this thing out. So not only for this young man. I mean, he should know what's going on, but also for the South Carolina football program, they need to know how they're going to move forward too.
That's life as a Gamecock. That's what they do to us. They hold us out in the cold while they let everybody in the warmth and glow of victory. They try to keep us on the outside, but we will rise above it. Speaking of rising above it, let's go into the wide receiver room. 6'5", elite speed Nick Harbor. This young man has given everything to football now and has devoted himself to being the absolute best wide receiver he can be. I think that we see a breakout on a breakout year from Nick Harbor this year. I think he's going to have a ridiculous season. And again, look at Xavier Legette, right? He had some good plays here and there, and then all of a sudden the young man just exploded. In fact, it happened, I believe, the explosion out of his body with this immense talent occurred when he ran it all the way back against Texas A&M, and the energy was so much that his daggone shoe blew off, and he left it on the field. I think that's what you get from Nick Harbor this season. Jared Brown is a very talented possession receiver. Izio Bennett showed some great flashes this past year. I think it's going to be a great year out of these young men in the wide receivers room. Taylor, what do you think?
Man, Jaden Sellers, Nick Harbor. I mean, the chemistry between those two guys and LaNorris Sellers already. Last year's Mazio Bennett, who was already a top-producing wide receiver. Now, something about Xavier Legette. He worked with OTC Kennels and all of a sudden had a breakout year and went round one. So, Nick Harbor, if you listen, holler at me, but we can make something happen. No,
That's
overall,
right.
man, I'm looking forward to having a great year out of these wide receivers. It's a young room. Honest to God, I just hope that everything lives up to expectation because their ceiling is so high. I mean, it's not far-fetched to be talking about South Carolina in national championship contention just with the caliber of players only. Now let's see what we can do to scheme it up coaching-wise, and hopefully everything comes together like it's supposed to.
Absolutely. And I don't think you can sell it short, Taylor. I think greatness begets greatness. Iron sharpens iron. Mr. Harbor, give OTC Kennels a call, and let's see what you guys can do because we'd all love to see those results.
The biggest question for me this year, receiver-wise, you could almost say their receiver is a tight end. Our tight end situation this year, we lost a really good guy in Josh Simon. Now, we still have Brady Hunt. That was a Ball State transfer last year. So he's already going to have a year in the system, kind of have a little bit of know what's going on coming into this year. But I'd like to see who's going to be that guy that steps up and fills that role this year for us. That's something I'm really looking forward to.
Absolutely. There's still some questions surrounding the status of Michael Smith coming into this season. Jordan Dingle transferred in from the University of Kentucky. Smart move, Jordan. I don't know if you'll see the field, but at least you'll get to witness what winning looks like. That tight end room does need to have some shakeout so we can all figure out what we're going to get. The tight end room has been a very big room for the South Carolina Gamecocks over the years. We've talked about other programs where you think, tight end, does anybody care? As long as they can block and maybe pick up 3 or 4 yards here and there. The offensive schemes that we've seen at South Carolina over the last 10 years, I'll say, did depend pretty heavily on having a talented tight end, and Josh Simon certainly at the top of that kind of a conversation. He will be a big miss for the Gamecocks going into this season.
You know, I think if you go back and look at some of these national championship teams over the last 10 years in college football, if you go back and look at them, I think a lot of them have had that really stud tight end, that guy that if that quarterback was ever in trouble, he's got that guy ready to check that ball off too. Georgia was definitely somebody. I mean, without Brock Bowers, I don't think Georgia would have won those 2 national championships. So I definitely think the tight end position is probably growing more and more popularity in terms of winning a national championship now.
Absolutely. Going into the next room with the offensive line, Taylor, unless you've got something more to say about the tight ends.
No, but I was definitely about to go where you going. I hope, man. We got a Bowling Green transfer coming in to play left tackle that I'm super excited to see this year.
That's right. The only thing that I've got as far as a question mark, if you will, about the offensive line is, again, in recent history, is how that unit comes together with their overall chemistry. There's no unit in my mind. I mean, I know that wide receivers and quarterbacks have to have a certain level of chemistry, right? But that doesn't ever matter unless this group up front has their stuff put together. Josiah Thomas, Tree Babalade, Rodney Newsom Jr., Nick Sharp, Case and Henry. Those are your projected starters across the front five. Can these guys put it together and have that solid unit to protect LaNorris, to protect our run game, to open up some holes, to give LaNorris some time to find the open receiver and make magic happen on the field?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have anything else to say about the O-line. I mean, they, protect your quarterback, man. I think if LaNorris can stay healthy and can stay protected, Carolina's a very, very dangerous team.
Speaking of danger.
Oh, here we go.
I am going to name this young man Captain Danger. Dylan Stewart. All he has to do is no more silly penalties where you act as though you're firing off an automatic weapon at a quarterback that you just took down. Just enjoy the fact that you embarrassed him in front of his family and his girlfriend and his teachers and his classmates and his mascot and his coaches and his Boy Scout troop from 4 years ago. And you will see great things, Dylan. Captain Danger. This man is going to lead an all-out assault on every quarterback he sees. He might even go sack some that he's not scheduled to play against. That's how good he is.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, Taylor's got to jump off here in the next few minutes. So before we finish going over the depth chart, Chick, as long as you don't have a problem with it, I want to give Taylor an opportunity to give his projections on each one of the games. So, Taylor, you good with that?
Oh, yeah, man. Thank you so much, and I do appreciate you guys having me on business calls as usual. So I have to tidy up things on this end to go meet customers and look forward to more episodes of Chicken and Dawg. But let's run that.
All right, Virginia Tech.
Dub.
Yep.
That's going to be an easy one.
I'm not even over South Carolina State. Vanderbilt,
I think, is going to be a sleeper team. I think they're going to come in. We'll struggle with them, but then ultimately we'll pull that one out.
all right. Mizzou,
Missouri, I think we're going to get that win easily this year.
okay. Kentucky,
Dub all day.
LSU,
LSU is going to be a question mark. Man, I'm not going to lie to you. I think, like you said earlier, I can talk all the junk I want to, but Death Valley is probably going to be a night game. It's going to be a big game. I'm going to just put a question mark and say, if we lose one this year, that'll be the one.
wow. That's pretty bold. If we lose one this year.
Yeah.
All right, so Oklahoma,
I think we're going to win that one as well.
okay. Alabama,
I think we win that one. I think that we win the Alabama one comfortably because, side note, hot take from Off the Chain Kennels, I think Alabama's dynasty is over. I think that new coach that they brought in is going to be one that's going to try to keep some talent around for a little while, but not be able to put it together the way he needs to in Alabama. And this is going to be the falling short moment of them.
oh my senior chief, please keep it in. I know you probably have some words you would like to say from that comment. Thank God you're not on the show. Whew. Ole Miss,
I think so.
even in Oxford.
In Oxford, this is going to be the year where Lane Kiffin regrets anything that happened through last year. Last year, it was just too much drama, too much potential. Juice Wells being a transfer out, all the hate between the two. But I think this year is going to be the year that we comfortably beat them. That's a win. There's too much going on at A&M for them to worry about football right now, man. They're just a shambles.
All right, what about the Fighting Davos?
Oh, man, that's the one I'm looking most forward to. And I'll say this was one of the last things. This is our first year as me personally being a season ticket holder. And I bought those season tickets to specifically only make sure I was there for this game and this game only. Because when we take down Clemson 31-14 at home in Williams-Brice this year, you heard it here first. That's what's going to happen, and that's going to be the seal the deal. When they talk about South Carolina, they're going to say this year here, when they went to the playoffs and competed for the national championship, they whooped Clemson down.
Wow.
I love it.
Well, I mean, I love his optimism. I mean, I do. I'm going to highly disagree with a lot of these guys say, but hey, that's what being a fan is all about, man. You think the best for your team. Do I think Carolina will end up having a great season? I think they'll have a great season. And we'll get into that later on. But I do believe that Carolina makes it to the playoffs this year.
This is going to be one for the history books, man. Hey, but thank you guys for having me so much, and I appreciate it. Go.
All right, Taylor. Thanks, buddy.
That's right. Go Cox.
All right, Chicken, keep going on the defense.
All right, back over the defense. Again, led by Captain Danger, Dylan Stewart. After Captain Danger, you got Brian Thomas Jr. Showed some great things this past season. Brownlow Dindy, a transfer in from Texas A&M. Again, a lot of bad stuff happening at A&M right now. The defensive line front is just ridiculous. 5 stars, 4 stars all over the place here. And again, some 3-star talent. Brian Thomas Jr. is a 3-star edge rusher for South Carolina. Jataeus Greer, a 3-star. Devontae Miles, a 3-star. Carolina is known for doing some really special things with 3-star athletes, and I don't see our defensive front being any different. I think they're going to have another great season. The linebacker room, there's going to be some change here. We lost Demetrius Knight. We lost Debo Williams. There's going to be some change here in the linebacker room, but I think we're set up for success. J.R. Johnson, a 4-star sophomore, played in 6 games last year, 4 tackles. Not a lot of experience to come in here, but he had a lot of experience that he was sitting behind and learning from. So look for his star to start shining pretty bright. Sean Murphy, a transfer in this season, a 4-star there. A lot of big things to look for from the linebackers. Defensively in the backfield, our corners and safeties have been statement makers for the Gamecocks for quite some time. Peyton Williams is there. Jalen Kilgore, DQ Smith, 2 big names from this past season. Brandon Cease transfers in from North Carolina State, a big player there. Looking forward to a lot of excitement in the defensive backfield. Guys are going to have a tough time. Teams are going to have a tough time finding a lot of airspace against the South Carolina Skies.
Let me ask you this. Over the last 20 years, how would you rate this defense?
On a scale of?
I mean, would you think it's one of their best?
I think they have the potential to be one of their best, yes. And that includes the Clowney years.
I was going to bring him up. Is this other kid that you think is going to be the next great thing? You think he's the next great Clowney? I mean, you think, at least for me as a non-Gamecock guy, right? Anytime I think of Carolina defense, Carolina stud defense, my mind immediately goes to Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, he was phenomenal. I mean, you can't not think about him and that hit on that Michigan player. May God rest his soul. But, I mean, they're just incredible. I mean, he was incredible. Is this team that kind of team?
I think that this team is that kind of team. What I'll say about Jadeveon Clowney, phenomenal athlete, ridiculous athlete, the hit, right? What else do you need to say? Dylan Stewart comes in and has all-out effort on every play, still makes big plays, and just like Jadeveon had, I know that Jadeveon was the highlight guy on a national scale, right? Gamecock fans knew better, but on a national scale, he was Carolina's defense. Like, he was the image of Carolina's defense. You had so many. DJ Swearinger, I mean, the kid levels a Clemson player and then just stands over him and laughs, says, how did that feel? Right? Like, you had so much raw talent on that defensive unit that was just looking to hurt people and punish them. I'll go back even further. Years ago, under the Lou Holtz era, Rashad Faison, you want to talk about a heat-seeking missile that just wanted to blow people up and then stand there and celebrate your defeat. Those are the kind of players that make South Carolina defenses just the thing to beat. John Abraham, again, going way back to the Brad Knott era, right? Played for years in the NFL. John Abraham was feared in the Southeastern Conference as an edge rusher. This dude was a beast, and it made other programs circle the South Carolina game because they knew they had to play against that defense. They might not have been worried about what the offense would or wouldn't bring to the table that day. They might not have been worried about whether or not they were actually going to leave with a victory, especially year one under Lou Holtz. Everybody, including the concession workers, left with a victory. South Carolina didn't, because we went 0-11. But we had a defense that knew how to play football, and they were going to make you earn every inch, every blade of grass. And that's what this defensive unit reminds me of, is that type of unit that's going to go out there and they're going to make you pay.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I mean, I'd love to see Carolina have I think they're going to have a great year, and I think that they have the potential to be. I mean, they definitely had an elite defense last year. The defensive side of Carolina football last year was really, really good. Now, one of our defensive dogs of the year, our defensive dog of the year, which was Kyle Kennard, of last season, is he going to be missed? Yeah, there's no doubt. But the good thing at the end of the day is you have Shane Beamer.
You got Shane Beamer, you've got Captain Dangerous with Dylan Stewart, and like I said, you've got Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. had some snaps here and there as kind of an infill role. He'd spell Dylan Stewart. Sometimes he'd spell Kyle Kennard. So he's had meaningful snaps. I look for that to be an easy plug and play in the absence of Kyle Kennard.
All right. Anything else you want to say about their roster?
No, I think I'm as good as I'm going to get about the roster right now. Again, with the
Their
question
punter's
about,
good?
I mean, let's hope we don't have to use him that much. But you know what? In all fairness, I treat the kickers and punters the same with my Gamecocks as I do with other programs. We don't have anything to my knowledge sorted out at the place kicker position. You got Mason Love and Peyton Argent going over that job. Who's going to win that one? William Joyce is listed as the punter right now. Again, I hope that we only need a guy that can put it through the uprights for several times a game. I'm not interested in how far downfield can we punt it. I think LaNorris is going to answer a lot of those questions for us.
Yeah, I hope so. And look, just on a side note, because I mentioned punter and we made some jokes about that. I read an article the other day, and it was talking about the greatest in the recent greatest All-Americans for each SEC team. And there was a couple of teams, their best All-American was a punter. Not a good look. Not a good look at all.
I think that's what you'll see coming out of Kentucky this year. Probably a punter.
Maybe so. All right, so, hey, look, let's dive into these games real quick. All right? And I know we've been all over the place on these games and this and that, whatever, but it is what it is. All right, so Virginia Tech in Atlanta.
Give us the win. Give us the win. I think we win that game walking away. I think we win that game by 14 easy.
I think that's a W. I do. Of course, we both agree that South Carolina State is a W. Vanderbilt, I'm going to go with Carolina.
Send them back to Sesame Street. You don't belong here. We can count higher than you can.
You have to go to Columbia, Missouri the week after. And I'm going to say because he doesn't have Brady Cook, you guys win this game. But do not let your guard down, not just because he's the evil one, but because that's a tough environment to play in. Just ask the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, we win, but it's always close every time we go to that stinking stadium. So I think it's a W for Carolina, but look out.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Carolina's had some narrow escapes from Columbia, Missouri before. I think that that's a fair assessment. Again, Missouri and South Carolina always play each other very, very closely, regardless of how good either team is or isn't that year. It's an interesting rivalry because we bring out the best, the most competitive in each other. Man, I hate them. So we're going to win. I think it will be a year where we demonstrate that we've passed them. We've beaten out the darkness that is Eli, and we're gonna bring this one home. We're gonna bring that trophy home from Columbia, Missouri.
Yes, I think so too. Your next game is you take on the Fighting Stoops. Yeah, I don't know where Kentucky's going to be this season. Last year was a dumpster fire. I'm sure it'll be a little bit better, but I do believe that that'll be a loss for Kentucky, and Carolina wins this game.
Yeah, I think Libby's picked Kentucky to go 15th in the SEC this year. I'm not really sure about that. Nobody's looking at the Wildcats and thinking, they might make a run for it. If they're saying that, they might mean, I don't know, some pizza or fried chicken. They might make a fried chicken run before the game's over. I look back to, there was a game.
Basketball.
Well, I was going to say, there was a game in his professional career where Mark Sanchez snuck a hot dog over on the sidelines because it was not his day. I think that that's the kind of run that Kentucky's going to make, is they're going to be making fast food runs on the sidelines. It's just, I don't think it's in the cards for the Wildcats this year. I think that Carolina, in all fairness to Kentucky, it's not a game that you can just look past these guys. They will take advantage of the right scenarios. Look how closely they played Georgia last year. That was a rough weekend for you.
Not good.
Carolina's got to come in here focused. If they do, then I think that you're looking at a very similar outcome to what Carolina had against Oklahoma last season, where they just beat the brakes off of the Wildcats.
I could definitely see that. So that puts you at 5-0, rolling to Death Valley, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, potentially a 7:30 kickoff or 6:30 there, but to all the cool people out there on Eastern Standard Time, 7:30. I don't know, man. I mean, I think Carolina wants that game back from last season, so I just think it's gonna be an incredible ball game.
Yeah, this is going to be an absolute battle because both of these teams need that game.
For sure.
Nussmeier's coming in as kind of an outside shot. He's not mentioned as a Heisman candidate, but he's not one of the front runners, right? Like everybody thinks that Arch is a sexy front runner. People think that LaNorris is a sexy front runner, and he is. Nuss is out there. He's got opportunity here. So this is going to be a big matchup for him in this game. We are dealing with some revamped players here on the Carolina defense. So he's going to be looking to try and exploit some things. But as you said, Norris is going to go into this game. He's a Heisman candidate. He's going to be looking to make statements. He's going to be looking to show, hey, I went out at halftime last year. This is what happens to you when I'm here all 60 minutes.
Yeah, I really can't call this game, man. I mean, I really can't.
I like the Gamecocks by 3 in this one.
If whoever wins this game, I think it's going to be close. I mean, I think the game will go back and forth. I really do. And it'll be the battle of the quarterbacks. I think who at the end of the day is the better quarterback will win this game. And if LSU is undefeated coming up into that game, you are going to see probably some chatter about Nussmeier if Nussmeier does what Nussmeier did last season. Remember, that joker threw for 4,000 yards last year. He ain't no chump, man. This boy can sling it now. And they have a great coach, man. Brian Kelly's a great coach. I don't think anybody can argue that. So, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, if in fact it's at 7:30, Carolina loses.
I think it'll be at 7:30. I think Carolina wins this game by a field goal. I think that this instantly becomes an ESPN classic. They still do that, the instant classics. If they do, and ESPN, if you've decided not to, and now you're watching Chicken and the Dog and you're thinking, oh, this kid's got a point. I accept royalties and you can email us and we'll give you the information.
That's right.
But that's what this game will be. This game will be that just absolute battle back and forth. And I think the Gamecocks will come out. And this might be one of the only times, God above, please help us, that we need a kicker.
Yeah, you might. That's for sure. Then next you take on Oklahoma in Colatown.
Like I said earlier, this is my trap game. I'm a lot more confident about going into Baton Rouge, playing them any time of day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, I don't care. I'm more confident about that game than I am Oklahoma because Oklahoma wants payback. Oklahoma is going to come over to South Carolina, to Columbia, to play this game. And that's not that I think that Oklahoma is in and of itself so special. I think that they've got their own fires that they need to try and find a way to put out. But if Carolina going into this game is 6-0, coming off of what would be, whether it's by 3, whether it's by 17, a huge victory over Baton Rouge, LSU, I think that this is that trip-up opportunity. So if the Gamecocks don't take the field, firing on all cylinders, making no mistakes, this could be a loss.
And look, Oklahoma got a transfer quarterback in Mateer, man. I mean, he's a pretty good quarterback. So I don't know. I'm going to say, because I'm going to give LSU the win on the previous week, I'm going to give Carolina the win against Oklahoma. I think they bounce back and not only beat Oklahoma, but also beat the next team you face, which is Alabama. I think Carolina beats Alabama in Colatown. I'm not going to go as far as Taylor went with Alabama, as far as, their dynasty is over. Look, I can go to Alabama right now and coach that team and win ball games. And I ain't never been a head football coach in my life. They're that loaded. They're that loaded with talent. And DeBoer is no chump. I know I've criticized DeBoer over the years and talked about how I don't think he is the answer at Alabama. And I've explained this many times, but I think that's all hinged on how do you follow Nick Saban, man. I just think it's too hard. And so, but I think Carolina wins this game.
Yeah, I think that this game is a repeat of 2010. Where Alabama comes in expecting to win, and South Carolina shows them the door rather quickly. I think that this game is over at halftime. I would love.
I do too.
The cockiness in me would love to say this game is over at the end of the first quarter, but I'm going to give it to the half. But yeah, I think Carolina comes out second half and it's already over. They're just burning clock and buttoning things up.
Yeah, I think Carolina wins this game by 2 touchdowns. I do.
I'm going to go 3 touchdowns on this.
Oh my gosh!
I think that you've got a 2 touchdown lead going into the half, and then they extend that by 1 more in the second half.
You don't think this by any means damages your relationship with Senior Chief by saying that?
No, I don't. It might hurt some feelings with Uncle Kenny.
Oh yeah.
But I'm sure he'll find a way to drink his way through the pain.
So I would imagine there'll be some Uncle Kenny write-ups, maybe pertaining to that statement. I don't know.
It could be.
Yeah. Then next, you go to Oxford, Mississippi, and you take on Ole Miss and the Fighting Kiffins.
Ole Miss, it's an interesting thing. So Lane Kiffin and Eli Drinkowitz have similar relationships against South Carolina in that they typically find ways to be successful. Lane Kiffin has done it at a few stops in Tennessee, and of course now at Ole Miss. Eli Drinkowitz did it at a few stops at App State and now at Missouri. For whatever reason, I don't hate Lane near as much as I hate Eli. That said, I don't think that he owns Carolina this year. A lot of those matchups historically with Lane Kiffin, the game was over really before it started. I don't think that happens this year. I think that this is another just knockdown, drag out, could be an instant classic. I'm more confident about an LSU game having that type of effect on everybody and our psyches as far as what we believe Carolina is. I think Carolina wins this game by 2 touchdowns.
All right, so I'm actually gonna think Carolina on paper, Carolina wins this game. There's no doubt about it because there's so many question marks, and we'll get into Ole Miss seasons pretty soon. And by the way, the Gooch wants to be on when we do the forecast show for Ole Miss. He wants to be on there.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. So, but as far as Ole Miss, there's so many question marks. So I'm going to give Carolina the nod on this one as well. Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, I think that we got them last year. We're going to keep them right there for a little while. I think they're going to be under our boot for a minute. I don't know how big that dumpster fire is, how many issues that they have. It's Texas A&M. It's hard to. It's easy for me to say that Kentucky might be down for a while. It's hard for me to say that about Texas A&M. In my mind, a down Texas A&M program is like a 2 or 3 year thing, right? But I think that happens again this year. I think Carolina comes out on top, and we start seeing some more of that competitiveness between them trying to take that back, possibly next year. Not saying it's going to happen, but I think that's where the positioning would be.
I think A&M is gonna have a struggling year this year. I do. I think they've lost quite a few players to the transfer portal and to the NFL. And although I think they've got a great coach in Elko, I do. And I think that I would encourage that program to stay with this guy. There's no doubt about that. Give him some time. It's like Carolina gave Beamer some time, and look what he's doing at Carolina. I think you give Elko the time. But at the end of the day, I think Carolina will beat Texas A&M. Coastal Carolina, it's not baseball, so yes, Carolina will beat them.
I was going to say the same thing. Big fan of the Chants. I love Coastal Carolina. I love the surf turf over there. But yeah, if this were baseball, it might be a different conversation. But yeah, football, it ain't going to happen, guys.
I mean, you had a son that went to Coastal Carolina for a little bit, and so
yep.
So that's a little special place for you, for sure.
Yeah, it's a great school, but they're not where they need to be to take on the Gamecocks in football right now.
No. All right. Last but not least, Clemson rolls into Colatown. First year of Dabo digging into the NIL. Cade Klubnik, hopefully still under center at the time. Go.
Cade Klubnik is an outstanding quarterback talent. He just plays for the wrong school in the state of South Carolina. I'd love to see what he could do backing up LaNorris. No, Cade, I kid because I love. I think Cade's going to have a great year at Clemson. It's just not going to end well in Columbia on November the 29th. I think Carolina wins this game. I don't think it's going to be really, really close. I think it might be borderline embarrassing for the Tigers. But the thing about that is Historically, with these two schools, when it gets embarrassing, the tide tends to shift pretty quickly. Several years ago, it was in the Spurrier era, kind of won 5 in a row. And then Clemson had enough. Right. So I think that you're kind of seeing that same sort of undulation here in the waters between the two schools. They've gone back and forth a little bit here. I think Carolina picks up a little bit of a streak here. They're going to win 2 in a row. The question will it be an ugly one? Will it be a close one? Or will it be an absolute blowout? My hope is that it will be a close, solid battle to where we can go 3, 4, 5 in a row over the Tigers. But with a lot of the talent that Carolina has and the nature of the program under Beamer, I almost feel like they're going to steamroll the Tigers this year and win by about 3 touchdowns.
I am going to highly disagree with you.
You're welcome to do that. It is your free right as an American, as brought to you by all of the Patriots that we just celebrated on this 4th of July.
That's right. And here's why I'm going to disagree with you. Do I think Carolina wins this game? Probably. My hat goes to Carolina right now. But because when this game is played, and I think the implications that this game carries only for Clemson, but also for Carolina, I think this game is the winner is trying to solidify their spot in a 12-team playoff. That's what I think this game represents. Because of that, I think there'll be incredible plays made. I think there's going to be some stupid mistakes made. I think players' attitudes and their actions are going to be high on alert. And I just think there's just so much going to be right. If this game was played middle of the season, I'd say Carolina by 2 touchdowns. But because it's the last game of the year, of the regular season, before the SEC and the ACC championship, I think it's going to be a tough game for both teams.
The reason that I am cautious, and I'm hoping that it gets pulled back a little bit and we don't win by 3 touchdowns, is because LaNorris is the dude. If you look at what Clemson attempted to do against the Gamecocks this past season, it was to make sure that everybody was just blanket covered and that LaNorris didn't have anybody to throw to. Because there was some idea, and I'm not saying that it was a bad one defensively, but there was some idea that then they'd be able to collapse down on LaNorris when they flushed him enough because he didn't have anywhere to go. He was going to have to run. They could collapse down and contain him somehow. LaNorris Sellers still won that ballgame and said, well, they're not going to give me that, so I'm going to take all of this. And I just think that he is that type of player, that he provides such nightmares to defensive coordinators that they legitimately don't know what to do. It's, well, maybe he'll throw an interception on 3rd down. Fingers crossed, y'all. Maybe he'll throw an incompletion. Maybe he'll trip over his own shoelace and we'll get credited with a sack. That's the kind of thing that you have to hope for against LaNorris Sellers. Maybe it'll be so hot that the ball will slip out of his sweaty fingers, right? Like that's what you got to hope for. I think LaNorris is just the dude. I think that he takes over against Clemson. Clemson, remember, we say this too. The ACC, while a Power 5 conference, is not what the SEC is. So Clemson's not used to having to have a semi-pro level defensive unit. That's what it's going to take. It's actually going to take more of a lower tier NFL defensive unit to keep LaNorris Sellers from piling up mileage and piling up points against your defense.
That's a pretty big statement that you just said.
He's a pretty big dude.
All right, so let me ask you something then. At the end of the regular season, what is Carolina's overall record?
I hate that you asked me this because looking at this schedule, I can see a path to an undefeated season going up for the SEC championship. Now, let me temper that expectation. I can see that path. I don't think that's going to be the path that we're on. I think that Carolina ends the regular season 11-1 or 10-2. I think that that's really how it probably goes. I think your opportunities for loss fall in LSU, Oklahoma, and Alabama. I think that 3-game spread is where you pick up 1 or 2 losses to dampen that. I think Carolina gets within sniffing distance, putting difference of the SEC championship game, but I think they're outside Atlanta looking in. I don't think that they're playing for the SEC championship this year, but I do think that they're in the playoffs. And I do think that they make a run. I don't think that this is a natty year for the Gamecocks. I hate saying that, but I feel like they make it to the playoffs, but maybe not past the second round.
I think they're a 10-2 team. I do. And I think that's enough to get them in. If they're an 11-1 team, they're playing they're playing the SC championship. Right? There's no doubt about that. But I think they're a 10-2 team. Where those losses come from, I'm going to have to agree with, like you said, LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, and I'm going to throw in Ole Miss or Clemson, depending on what goes on at the end of the season. They're going to come from one of those or two of those teams, I believe. Like I said, it just depends on how everything shakes out, and especially in the middle of the season. If you guys go in and you're undefeated going to LSU, or after you go through LSU, you're now 6-0. That Oklahoma game, that could be one. There's no doubt about that. If you beat Oklahoma and you're 7-0 against Alabama, that's a trap. That is probably a huge trap game. If you're 8-0 going into Ole Miss and going to Oxford, you lose in Oxford. There's no doubt about that.
I disagree with that. I think I like better going into Oxford, Mississippi as an undefeated program and not losing than if you've got a loss. If I've got a loss on my schedule and I'm going into Oxford, that's where I can see potentially picking up a second loss based on your diagnosis here of the Carolina season. I could see us dropping one there. I feel like if you're going into Oxford, that game's probably going to be played at night, right? If Carolina's 7-0, 8-0 going into that matchup, that game's going to be at night. I just feel like these guys are ready, chomping at the bit. They've already got their sights set on something higher. They've already cleared any focus issues that might have been there, and now they're zeroed in on wanting that championship opportunity to take home the SEC title. And I don't think Lane Kiffin's got enough this year to really match up against that type of Carolina team.
When we did the forecast show for Georgia, we basically did not do this. We did not go down the schedule and tell you win-loss or whatever. But after talking with people and whatever, I don't think Georgia goes undefeated either. But I couldn't tell you what game they were going to lose. I think they have a chance of winning every game, but I don't think that that's realistic in today's SEC. I don't. I'm with Sark on that. And I'm going to say that about Carolina as well. I don't think Carolina goes undefeated, but I can't tell you which game they're going to lose. Or two games. I think they're going to lose two games. I can't tell you what two games they will lose. Alabama, Senior Chief, he said that he thought Alabama, he projected Alabama to win every game. I can tell you Alabama's going to lose to Georgia in Athens. I believe that. I thoroughly believe that. But I can't tell you what game South Carolina's going to lose. I don't know.
Yeah, it's that type of outlook for us this year. I hope it plays out that way, right? Like I hope that the expectation, the excitement plays out that way on the field. And we're sitting here, in late October going, man, these guys are still undefeated. Yeah. Where's that loss going to come in? And of course, at that point in time, you're going to be, watch out, Clemson's your L. I hope it plays out that way, not with the loss to Clemson. Looking over Carolina historically, looking at what college football is today, not just in the SEC, but across the country, in every conference, that undefeated season is harder and harder to come by. And that's the beauty of the playoff system that we've got now. So it's more like the NFL where you want to make to the playoffs, get to the playoffs, save that run for the playoffs. And I think that Carolina's looking at a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I almost think it's a reset as soon as you get to the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. It's just a good thing for Carolina that they don't open up with Old Dominion this year.
Hey, a win's a win, baby. That's all that matters.
Oh, my God, it was ugly. But so was Georgia's win against Kentucky, so there's always that.
There are a lot of people in my class watching this show where they could say the same thing about their prom date, but a win's a win. If you didn't go with your cousin, you're good.
That's right. Yeah, we were talking about Arkansas. That's very possible. Could have went to the prom with your cousin. Not that there's anything wrong. Okay, there may be something wrong with that.
It's like short pants and long socks. It's weird for everybody.
Look, guys, follow us, like us, subscribe to us. Our viewership and our subscriptions are climbing at a rapid rate, and it's fantastic. It's very exciting. what the show is doing. I don't have anything else. Chicken, you got anything?
I am all crowed out.
All right, guys. Love you. Deuces.